My name is Bob Kennedy. I was stationed in the Republic of Moldova. It's a small landlocked nation between the Ukraine and Romania. They speak, their official language now is Romanian, and so that's what the Peace Corps trained most of us in, was in Romanian. I was there from June of 2010 till June of 2012. Just got back. Most of the homes are kind of an open arrangement with curtains or blankets or whatnot across some auxiliary rooms off to the side, and some of them had doors, and those that were fortunate enough to have them could do something to secure them. But Moldovans are kind of very informal about their home, that it's everybody's home. They're large extended families, so everybody's moving around, and the girls would tell me it was quite discomforting to know that when you were taking a sponge bath, you didn't know who was going to come in to help you out or come in to take and tell you whether you were doing it right or wrong or whatever it happened to be. But Peace Corps put showers in the Peace Corps headquarters there in Chisinau, and the girls, the people in the out company would flock to Chisinau on the weekends just to take a private shower. Just got back in America, and June, the first part of June I got back. So some of the questions that I've fielded so far from people are, do you find it difficult to reacclimate into the United States? And I hadn't thought of that until they asked me those questions, and I didn't realize how you acclimate into the country you're in, at least I did, into the things that they do over there, customs, traditions, and whatnot that they do over there, and you don't even realize that you're doing it. And the first incident of that was, I was at the dinner table with my sister and brother, our nephew, and my sister. In America, they have little individual salt serving things that you can dip a tomato or onion or something in. And in Moldova, it's a communal salt dish. And I remember in Moldova having that presented to me the first time. It was at a family party to kind of welcome me, and they were having some of their traditional dishes and whatnot. And I asked for some salt because I didn't see a salt shaker or pepper shaker on the table. And my host mother said, yes, just a minute, ran in the house, came out with a dish of salt and put it on the table. And I didn't know quite what to do with that, because the only utensil they give you is a fork to eat with, and I'd already eaten with my fork, and I didn't know, what do I do now? And so I watched as her brother reached into the salt dish and took his and sprinkled it on his food, and then she reached into the salt dish and sprinkled it on her food, and we did our PST in rural villages in Moldova. So these were rural people who had come out of the field that day, had been in the field every day, so their hands were, as one might imagine, and I'm looking and I'm trying not to be American and wondering, how am I going to reach into that dish after I've seen these people reach into that dish with their hands, not knowing where their hands had been that day. But after 2 years in Moldova, as I was leaving, I was reaching right into the dish right along with the best of them, which isn't too bad. But they also have a common practice that, because you only get a fork to eat with, so if your piece of meat or whatever it is, they just spear it and just eat it off. And if they want salt, in it goes, and in it goes. And I just got used to that. After a while, you put your tomatoes and onions and cucumbers, and you just take a bite, stick it in the salt. Everybody is doing the same thing. Anyway, at my sister's table, she had a little salt dish there, and I didn't think anything of it. We were having sliced tomatoes, and I took my tomato, dipped it in, bit it, And she didn't say anything on that one, but when I went back to dip it in the second time, she reminded me, this is my salt. And what was it like reacquainting with America? Yesterday I went for my first haircut, and the barber was interested to know that his title in Moldova would be frizerielor, and he said, what's that? And I said, well, that's a person who owns a frizeria, a barber shop. And he said, oh, that's interesting. And well, it's interesting that they don't have any men barbers in Moldova. It's all women. And he said, oh, well, is that hard for you to like acclimate here? He says, and I said, no, the only thing that's hard to acclimate here is I just paid you $15 for a haircut, and the max in Moldova is $4. And that comes with a shampoo before and a shampoo after. and he said, well, how do they make any money? And I said, well, it's a different world. So anyway, those were some of the things that I found so far, acclimating back into life in America. And what I found is that I didn't realize before I went how we bring things into our lives, whether we grew up with them or we meet someone and they do something a certain way. We just bring that into our lives and we don't even notice it. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it was happening in Moldova, because they're very courteous people. They won't tell you flat out when you're offending them. They'll just kind of go on with life. Whereas in America, we're a little different. If we offend someone, we'll let you know you're standing on my piece of ground right now, and it would be good to step off. And so I didn't realize how those types of things happen to us, and so I'm assuming that they happen with all us volunteers when we're in these situations, that we pick up things, don't know that we've even done it, and then all of a sudden we come back home and we find ourselves doing ungracious or ungrateful things according to American customs and mores and whatnot, and so that was a real awakener for me. You said I have, with my work, I worked for the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad my whole working career, and volunteered for Peace Corps service afterwards as a fulfillment of a lifetime dream when I was a young person and was all formed up and whatnot under President Kennedy and whatnot. I remember those days. Some of us older volunteers would remember it. But anyway, because I worked for the railroad, I was involved with government and other large companies often. And I can remember when I was working, people telling me, don't worry about it, Bob, this project will be fine, we've got your back, we'll make sure this happens and whatnot. And inevitably, that was not truly the case within the industry environment. They didn't have your back, you weren't backed up, and if you got yourself in trouble, you were out there on your own. Peace Corps was my really first experience heavily involved, and I could only tell you that I never felt so taken care of, so supported as I was during my Peace Corps experience. They took care of absolutely everything that you would have a need for, and they did it in a very pleasant and non-offensive way. They weren't pushy about it or whatnot. They just, anything, I can't think of a thing that I came up with during my 2 years that somebody within the Peace Corps administrative staff or cadre in-country staff wasn't there to take and see that not only was it provided for you, but was provided with instruction and was provided with the caring that it had. I was absolutely overwhelmed. I was amazed, and I just think to myself, if that's truly what it's like in other government organizations where we're sending people out of the country, military or whatnot, I think we're doing a good job as a country. And And if a person considering Peace Corps is wondering about those types of logistical things, put it out of your mind. They really take care of us as volunteers. So.
Hi, my name's Craig Hahn. My country of service was Moldova. And just last year, I just returned this summer. And my village is the little village of Turnova. Well, it was an interesting moment when I first got to my site, to the little village of Turnova. I ran across a lady that spoke English with an Irish brogue, and I found an interesting friend through that relationship. That she helped us design a support group for single parents, where another member of the family had to go to another country to work. And that's where she ended up with her husband in Ireland and got the Irish brogue